crafted evidence because Jessica from the reporter room, who ripped off my ultimatum video this weekend, I saw actually on her channel, her talking about it's a lot of great insight into this connection between Elliot Rogers and Bryan Kohberger. And now I thought at the time that it was probably ripped off from somebody, and now I'm sure of it.
You're like, now I've got it confirmed.
You know what I'm saying, Pepper, my girl?
Oh,
Nina, do you want to come up and talk about that? Do you know the other connections? Because I don't know them right off the top of my head. Hey, Tammy Lynn, it's always great to see you. Hi, from Taiwan, as always. Kelly, I hope you have a good Memorial Day weekend. Thank you so much, Tammy Lynn. It's always great to see you. Our friend from across the globe. So this is Crafted Evidence, who is up here. She does have a channel. She crafts and she talks about true crime and other things. She says you never know what you're going to get, so definitely check out her channel. And how are you doing, Jennifer?
Doing well, Kelly. I got to tell you, thank you so much for laying all of this out for us. A lot of us in the chat were saying, God, we feel so behind in the case, but you've really caught us up.
Oh, good. Awesome. That's great. I mean, yeah, this is there's so much deep complexity and there's just like so much complexity in this case. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. It starts to make me wonder, at some point in our country, are we going to have to do things differently? Because how can you really have a fair trial when everyone has access to the internet to see, the NBC special or go on Reddit, and it's everywhere.
Well, I mean, that is true. But, I think the thing that I would have to say to that is that, not everybody is like us. Not everybody is wanting to follow true crime. Not everybody even wants to hear about this stuff. Some people don't watch the news. Like, I used to be a news junkie. I intentionally, in our political climate, shall not watch the news. My mom will call me. She's still a news junkie, and she'll tell me all this stuff. I'm like, Mom, didn't I tell you that I don't watch the news anymore because it makes me anxious and upset and depressed? So let's not talk about it, So I think that, it seems that every trial that they do have, they're able to manage to find a jury, at least theoretically, that is impartial, that has not been exposed to all the conjecture and the conspiracy theory and the talk about it. I think for us, because we are so into all of this, we think it's everywhere, and it certainly is pervasive. But I certainly think there's a large section of society that doesn't give a shit about true crime and does not hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're almost going to have to go further out, into like different states at some point to where someone really hasn't heard about this case. Like, I think back about like Gabby Petito, everyone was following that case.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't go to trial, obviously, but just some of these cases hit it, and that it is what it is. That's just kind of the nature of the game.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I want to read through some of the comments here. So Angel says, and they're from like all throughout the stream. I've been starring them all along. So if they go a little far back, we'll just relate them. Angel says, it definitely looks like some of Dateline's pics and screenshots are from a FaceTime call, could be provided by the recipient of the call pics. Can't prove they got them directly from BK's phone data, in my humble opinion. Okay, so yeah, and Dateline does say that they mentioned the pictures were resized for quality, and other than that, they were unchanged, but we definitely do not know that. Now, Molly says, motive. He was disciplined by Washington State University. He crossed state lines in retaliation and hate against what he could never have. Oh, so and Molly is a WSU graduate, by the way, and thank you for being here, Molly. So
cool.
That's really interesting. So, and that's true. For those of you who don't know, he was his first semester in his doctoral program at WSU from Pennsylvania. He came across the country. He started off really rocky. People did not have a good impression of him. Students, have talked about him, saying that he was very off-putting, that he graded very unfairly, that he was very snarky at first. They say that after the murders, all of a sudden his demeanor and his mood changed, and he was in a good mood. He started giving anyone hundreds, but he was in initially he was in like academic trouble. He got into a fight with a professor. He just behaved very poorly. He was called in by, his superior, because he was also a teaching assistant, to talk about professionalism. And eventually he was put on an improvement plan. He did learn shortly, after the murders, but so he was disciplined before the murders. He was getting in trouble. That anxiety, that tension was increasing for him. And it wasn't until after that he learned that he was not going to be invited back in the next semester for his teaching assistant fellowship, which meant he wasn't going to be able to go back to school. Oh my gosh, but this is going to be the most interesting trial.
Do you think they'll get the continuance?
I'm afraid they will.
Yeah. And I didn't know until today that they had actually sent the notice of the hearing to Shannon Gray.
Yeah. Yep. They did. Yep.
That threw me for a loop.
Yep. That's right. Yep. Because they're talking about the hearing was about the victim's role in the, can't remember exactly what it's called, the victim's role in this process. And I am afraid that he called that because of the motion for continuance, and that there is going to be a continuance that is granted. And he wanted to privy the family to that information first, because it's going to be fucking heartbreaker.
Yeah, that's going to be a blow.
Yeah. Huh. That's crazy. Wow. All right. Let me read a few more of these comments I had started earlier here. Angel D says, Dateline didn't have to reveal their sources, do they? Well, no, they don't. I mean, and places like Dateline are really good about doing that. Journalistically, the integrity is to absolutely not reveal your source. Journalists have gone to jail for not revealing their sources, and many of them will. It's just, if you want to stay in the business, in the industry, you can probably tell us about this crafted evidence.
Yeah.
You have to protect your sources, right?
Yeah. You do not have to relay your sources. You always ask, because it's best to, let's say Kelly's a part of some crime, it's best for me to have Kelly's name out there, because it makes me look more credible, right? That I'm not making this up. However, with a case like this, they're not going to release their names, maybe even out of fear, honestly, at this point. But there's no need to release, almost like that client privilege thing. It's when you make this commitment to do a story with someone, you give them your word. I kind of got heat yesterday because people were asking me questions how I knew some information about this Gypsy Rose case, and they're like, well, how do you know that? And I'm like, I'm not telling you, because I'm not gonna burn my bridge, and not burn my source. You believe me or you don't.
Right. And with a place like Dateline, because they're they're a company that's housed under an incorporation, I don't even know where the personal liability or responsibility would lie for that. But it is a good question. I mean, the Judge Hippler assigning the special prosecutor to determine where the leak was. I have a hard time believing they're going to get it from Dateline, but I fully believe that the special prosecutor will be able to determine where this leak came from. And as I said earlier, and they need it to be known, that the owners of the security camera footage, 1112 King Road, the residents at the time of this tragedy of King Road, were not the people who released this footage. They were not. I had a conversation with the person who'd probably be the primary owner. It was not them. All right, I'm going to go to Dr. Vanna's comment. Hi, I'm back. Hi, Dr. Vanna. How are you? I'm going to email you tomorrow. We got to talk. Hi, I'm back. I truly believe if he could make an interpersonal. Oh, wait, Nina said something first. Wait, hold it. I'm out of order here. Warning label, Nina. Here's your comment. In my opinion, Kohberger does not have the mentality to trust another person to that level to be a duo. Great, because now the defense is pushing the alternative suspect theory, and the also they're saying that it was more than one person. I think maybe we've discussed this before, Nina. We're just having the same thought that his personality, I'm sure Dr. Vanna would agree, his personality composition is not one that could work well closely with another human being on anything, including making Play-Doh sculptures. Nonetheless, something this complex with such serious consequences. No way in hell. It just didn't happen. So then the minds behind true crime with Dr. Vanna says, hi, I'm back. I truly believe if he could make an interpersonal relationship, it would not have he would not have had to do the crime, allegedly. Yeah, I think that, I mean, he truly seemed to be, and thank you for becoming a member again, Dr. Vanna. And hey, Beach Bum's 1-year anniversary. Woohoo. I mean, he really and truly, seems like one of the few people who, I think everyone has that potential for connecting with others. Everyone, I guess I'd have to put in air quotes. I think there are very few people, those who fit into the category of certain pathologies, who simply cannot. And he very well, in my opinion, might be one of those people. What do you guys think?
Oh, I 100% agree with you, Kelly. Do you notice we have not had any friends from middle school, high school come out and say, oh, I knew, him, and like, okay, let's compare it to Chris Watts. You have a bunch of people coming out saying, he was the greatest guy, he was this, he was that. We have no one speaking about Bryan, and that shows me he has no relationship building skills. And yes, he's admitted he has autism, he's on the spectrum, but like you and I privately,
no, he hasn't admitted that. This is new. The autism spectrum thing is new. The defense had a doctor evaluate him. That diagnosis is new and cites back to childhood conditions and things are usually diagnosed for children, like oh god, I can't think what it is called right now. I see it all the time in my paper, but things that are really irrelevant. He has a very loose diagnosis, and that is only from a doctor that was hired by the defense.
Yes, and what bothers me the most about that, if we can touch on that, when he was younger, they did do the diagnosis, and I think something happened where they didn't get the diagnosis. Now, if you really thought he was on the spectrum as a parent, because I told you about my son, you push until you get those answers. They gave up, they didn't care. Now all of a sudden they want a diagnosis. That's suspicious to me. But even if he was high functioning, autism, maybe he has. You study behavior a lot, Kelly. I think you get what I'm saying about just having a hard time connecting with people and building friendships. He is
absolutely
awkward. He's
absolutely
awkward.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be, cruel, but he is socially awkward.
Yeah. And Dr. Vanna is also she has a doctoral degree. She's in a similar field as me. And I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what. You can tell us, Dr. Vanna. She said, oops. So it breaks down in short in live truth. Oh, he has antisocial narcissistic personality disorders with obsessive compulsive and schizoid personality traits. I 100% agree with you, Dr. Vanna. In my educated opinion too. Absolutely, Dr. Vanna, spot on with that. And I just put a link, by the way, in the chat to I did create a documentary on Bryan Kohberger. I released it, I don't know, like a year, a little over that ago. So if you want to check it out, it's still very relevant, and even more so. I researched the crap out of it, and there you go. Because I just thought of it when Crafted Evidence was talking about his lack of friendship. And Dr. Vanna was talking about that too. Yeah.
And we always want to drop those links in. Kelly, you also mentioned, and this made me think of something too, how he was getting into kind of trouble before this happened, and then after the murders, his attitude changed. And when you speak about that obsessive compulsive behavior, it makes me think of when someone plays out those urges or those compulsions, they feel better, they feel more relieved, and maybe that's why he was in a better mood and probably talking to people, and they were like, why is he talking to me? He's never talked to me before. He's happier. That behavior kind of was strange to me to hear about as well.
Yeah, no, I think that they're definitely onto something there. I think also, with what he did, it was something he had set his sights on. It was a goal of his. He's failed at all other things in his life, essentially. I mean, if you watch the documentary I created, it is the overarching theme of his life. I mean, I want to say sadly, but I mean, at this point, it's just so sad that anyone's life would be like that. But, he simply could not close the deal on anything. So finally, he sets his sights on a goal and he achieves the goal. And this must have been endlessly, like copiously fulfilling to him because he finally did it. He finally, in some way, became the person that he wanted to be. Dr. Vana says obsessive compulsive personality differs in that it is driven by longevity and rigidity. OCD is fueled by anxiety. He lacks anxiety. Oh, very interesting, Dr. Vana. That is more nuanced than I could have possibly come up with. That is why you are the doctor, and we love you and appreciate you.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can even kind of tell by the demeanor in the courtroom, too.
Yeah,
He's pretty laid back.
Oh, yeah. He's like, we got this. We got this. I think he feels the words, drugged, forced, sleeping. And also, and especially, the carving, the mutilation of Ethan Chapin, which I'm so sorry to even say those words.
Yeah, I mean,
it's pure rage. I think, that Ethan just clearly represented everything that he hates, that he has contempt and disdain for, and he was right there. And it appears from what we're hearing now that Ethan was likely sleeping, passed out at the time of his death. Xana was the one who was awake. He took Xana's life, and then still he chose to go over to Ethan and do that, and then to carve into his leg. I mean, yeah. That's a lot.
Like he wanted to be him, and he took his anger out, on him. And like you said, it's horrible to even say the words out loud.
Yeah, it is. It is. What are you thinking, Nina? Nina.
Oh, I'm hunting something I want to read y'all.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm listening though. Y'all go ahead.
Oh, you're still looking for it. Okay.
Let's see. Let me see if I can find some other comments here. I'm trying to think if I covered everything I wanted to cover tonight.
Have you done a poll, Kelly, to do? Oh, I mean, I feel like the majority kind of agrees he's guilty, but I was just curious if you've done a poll on where.
Yeah, I have done polls. I mean, now the polls on my channel are skewed because, it's been a while since, I have, and I always say, and this is true, I follow the evidence in all things. And I follow the evidence through vetted sources, scrutinized information, facts, and the elimination of bullshit. Based on all of that, it is clear to me that there is a great probability that this man is guilty. I think they have the right man. And at this point, based on the evidence, the overwhelming evidence in my mind, and in my mind, lack of reasonable doubt, if we want to put it in those legal terms, I do believe he is guilty. People know that. This case, like the Watts case, is highly polarized. People that support this man, and there are so many of them, and it just boggles the mind, don't really come around here no more. So, any poll that I'm going to put up is going to be highly skewed.
The only reason I thought is maybe just because of this, new Dateline thing. If anyone's thinking like, oh no, this isn't true, or that's the, sometimes, weeks go by, new things come out, people change their mind, but I just can't imagine someone changing their mind all of a sudden. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think he's in pretty deep.
Yeah. It seems that way to me. I mean, it's just, gosh, I mean, there was a point, I think it was after the first hearing with Hippler. I'm pretty sure that was it. And I don't remember exactly what made me think this. It didn't make me think by any means that he was innocent, but it did make me think, oh my God. I remember saying this in another channel's chat, a Kohberger channel's chat. I said, for the first time, I'm starting to see the possibility of reasonable doubt. And I just got like pounced upon.